Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Nikki C., all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Super excited to bring another guest onto this platform and join the Building a Leadership Mindset podcast family, where they bring their stories, their journeys of just that, how did they make it to where they're at today, the challenges, the good, the bad, everything in between, and really bringing you strategic tips on how to step into your purpose on purpose. We're going to say a shout lead sponsor, Carolyn Bob Green, as she is the CEO and founder of Training You to Succeed and the Entrepreneur, the Passionpreneur community as well, where she helps individuals just get their systems, automations, and all of that good stuff right. Thank you so much for your continued support. Also to Top Fox, who's our lead sponsor of Taking Off the Shades, for our Taking Off the Shades anthology that we have, and we are going into round 2 of that, entering into 2026. Continue to check us out at buildingaleadershipmindset.com on what we have coming up. So we're going to bring in a very special guest. I met his wife a year or two ago, and she has been on our show, but they're just doing amazing things through something that's happened through their lives, and they are now changing the world. And I just had to have his story here on the Bomb podcast. So he is Bob West, also Robert. And Robert has had a varied background of jobs that have centered around media, theatrical services, photography, sales and marketing, marine construction, and project management in industrial settings. He has held positions at the California State Farm, Bill Graham's Amphitheater, as well as the Sacramento Convention Center, where he performed duties as house manager, master electrician, stage carpenter, road manager, and lighting designer. Additionally, both his parents were communication majors who spent a fair amount of time in broadcasting, owning their own radio station before going into the real estate business. His diverse background has been a pivotal aspect contributing to the success of his most recent mission to create RadioBobUSA. After a personal tragedy of a friend, Bob was determined to channel the unfortunate experience into something to give others hope of achieving physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financial harmony in their lives. Without further ado, let's get my new friends, Bob Radio USA. Bob West, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing very well, Nikki, and thank you very much. And on behalf of Yasmin and myself, thank you for letting us come onto your show and be interviewed by you. And I can only hope it'll be entertaining enough to keep your viewers and listeners intrigued.
I'm sure it absolutely will. I just love your humor, just love your story, your background, just what you do and how you serve and what your mission is to accomplish. And I can't wait till the world knows more about what's coming up in 2026 and beyond, what has happened. But first, we're going to start with who Bob is. Like, what was life growing up for you? And what is your biggest takeaway on just the biggest lesson you learned?
My life growing up was spoiled rotten. I probably had, we laugh about it, but it's really true. I probably had every advantage a stupid little kid from the late 1960s to the 1980s should be offered. So I was very lucky from birth to be involved with a media family. My father was a producer for ABC television. He worked for Winterland. He did conventions. He did movies. He worked on Dirty Harry. I mean, he was this magnanimous person. He was just this huge person in the industry. And when people would say things like, well, we're going to do a rock festival at Monterey, what do you think? And he goes, oh, I'll arrange that for you. And so that was just the kind of thing that he did. And so I got dragged into his wake as a child from early on when they'd need a stage baby. And by the time I was about 7 or 8, I was already going out on locations and attempting to put equipment up. And by the time I was 13, 14, still kind of interested in photography, and I was doing a lot of darkroom work as high school projects and things like that. And then when I came out of school, I said, well, I'm going to be a history teacher. This is what I really want to do. And I was looking for an extra course, and there was a theatrical lighting course. And I said, well, I need 3 credits. I'll go take that. Well, that turned into the first of an 11-year career of doing stage work, ending up at working with companies like Sacramento Theatrical Lighting, Bill Graham, down at the convention center, as you mentioned, a couple of minor theater houses. And I worked in those first years as a kid. I worked for everybody. I worked for Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, Phil Collins, Dire Straits, but those were all what we call load-in shows. So I was a local guy. I didn't go out on the road with them. I did front a couple of bands here in California, so I had some experience doing that. And I just really enjoyed it. It was something special to me. I appeared in a few motion pictures. You don't know me from them. I'm just the guy running in this background or something like that. So that was kind of cool. And then kind of progressed from there into a security business for a little while. I got tired of theater. I said, I got to slow down a little bit. I did some security work, went back into theater, walking around one day, and a guy says, would you like to do international sales? And I'm going, okay, why not? So I tried that. I got interested in international sales, marine construction. And, I've had a very, very lucky opportunity, and I've always tried to share that. So along with all of that, which I did, I spent 35 years as a outing advisor on the water at San Francisco Bay, helping kids and teaching young adults. So I've always tried to return the benefits that I have been given to others as often as possible. And this has continued all my life. And eventually I did some more marine construction work and a little bit of project management. And I found myself kind of floating around again. So I went back into theater for a few years, worked for Sacramento Theater Company, in-house electrician, went back to work for STL for a couple of years. So it was the second time around with the same company, like 15 years later kind of thing. It was kind of fun. Got out of it again, went back into sales kind of thing, thinking, okay, this is cool. And I ended up doing international sales across 3 continents, going to places like the UK and Canada and down to Houston and into Navajo country to work with the Native Americans and indigenous peoples, the United States, Canada, Alaska. Started working on waste to energy projects, started working on remediation projects, trying to save the planet kind of stuff. Got out of that. Another guy came along and met him on a golf course, and he goes, you want to go to work for a city? Now I'm making water for millions of people in Northern California as part of a team that works for government, making fresh water. And a few years back, 3 years ago, there was a friend of mine I had met in the wastewater industry. It was the boss's daughter, and she'd helped me out a lot in learning the equipment because she was incredibly smart. It was the only job she ever had. So she knew all about Dad's equipment. And I was coming in to do sales there. So she taught me everything. And we started to get along as kind of like brother and sister kind of thing. It was like, she's a lot younger and I watch out for her. She cut my hair, that kind of thing. We'd always go out and have lunch kind of thing, And so I stopped working there, and I didn't really get a hold of her. Kind of kept track of her, talked to her on Facebook. But I got a notice from a friend. She had passed away. She had died. The official cause of death was accidental. Wasn't accidental. We kind of all knew. She had been raised in a single environment. She never left Dad. Never really left the house. Never really left anything. Found herself about 4 years of age, and I think she had nowhere to turn. And she'd had some mental issues, to put it calmly. So I was really kind of upset by it, even though I talked to her. But what upset me more was post after post after post after post on Facebook from people that we both knew saying, well, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me? And my response to all those posts was, well, why didn't you call her? And I knew I was in that group. I knew I was in that group. I mean, we talked on Facebook, but we weren't daily friends. We weren't going out to the bars. They were going out to the horse events, the racing events and things like this. And I really found it kind of tragic. And so I talked to a few of those people, and I said, I don't understand What happened? You guys were all friends. What happened? And they go, well, she just wouldn't talk to us. And I said, well, if you cared and you knew there was a problem, because we all knew, why'd you leave it there? And they go, we're busy. Okay. So I started looking at a few things, and I said, how can this tragedy be avoided? How can we get people to talk to the people that they need when they need it? And the answer is to learn to communicate again, because from the pandemic and after the pandemic, people stopped communicating. They stopped talking to each other. They're more than willing to yell at each other. They're more than willing to take a stand against something or protest against something. But when you ask two people who are protesting against something, why don't both of you come over here and help me pick up garbage for a minute? They both just stop and freeze like, whoa, that sounds like I have to be personally responsible for doing something, for actually committing to an action. And so I told Yasmin, I said, I can't stand this. I said, I want to take a shot at getting people to talk again, because then every other item can be addressed once we start learning to be civil and talk to each other. And so we discussed ideas of a podcast and ideas of doing videos and training sessions. And we sought out life coaches and psychiatrists and people with suicide prevention and veterans groups. I talked to hundreds of people, and none of them had a path that was the same. None of them they all had their own ideas and they were great, but none of them had a path that was the same, right? And they're all going, we got this real big language barrier, and then you've got all these political barriers and blah, 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 blah. And I go, no, we got to get rid of all that. I said, what will neutralize that? Music. Music is the great neutralizer. It doesn't matter what language it's in. If you play a song by Aerosmith when I was growing up, I can remember the first time I heard it. I know where I was. I know who I was with. I can think of 20 different times where I've heard the same Who song and everything was different, but I remember all these events. Why? Because music's always been the spice of life. It's basil on chicken. You're the chicken, it's the basil, right? And so people will gravitate to music, and it gives you a moment to enter their heart. What doesn't is advertising and politics. It closes the heart. It's like a membrane. It's like immediately permeates the membrane and nothing gets through except what that discussion is. And so we said, we're going to neutralize that. So no politics, no ads. We're going to keep playing music. And then instead of being subliminal and trying to convince people to talk to each other and do that, we figured we'd be in your face about it. So in our program stream, we run words of wisdom, philosophy, material like yours, the life coaching material. We have surfer gurus, Jerry Lopez. We have NASA presenting space information. We have Rich Lopp doing tarot reading. We have Kate Thurkelson and others out on race car tracks giving us free reports every now and then. We harvest them from their Facebook page. We have a world of contributors that we have found one at a time by emailing them and saying, hey, we want to share what you have with other people. And so we also have music programs and sports programs, and our music is premium. It's not elevator music. It is stock. You can see it behind me. It says the Who and the Scorpions right there, but it's also John Bon Jovi, and it's John Barry, and it's Jim Wigmore, and it's Elle King and Miranda Lambert. It's everybody that will get you up and get you dancing, because what I don't want to do is leave people at home.
Yeah.
That's where we started.
Wow, Bob. I just love your story. I mean, I heard a bit of it from, Yasmin, and then, we just had a conversation about a week ago, and I'm like, this is great. Just your story. First, I want to say thank you for being spoiled rotten. Because you really took those advantages and you played them for the positive, right? You put them in play every single new level, right? Whether you were going back, you also kind of described, what a lot of, whether it's entrepreneurs or people in life, just not finding where they kind of fit in. And you've tried mainly everything, right? So you've also, dropped a hidden gem there where it's never over until it's over. There's every opportunity to understand that trying something new doesn't mean that that has to be your end all be all, that you can go into these different times and seasons in your life and figure out, okay, is this for me? Okay, if it's not, let's move on to the next and get those opportunities. But that was just a hidden gem for me that I found there, as well as, having, can you give us your, I don't know if you can, but can you give us your friend's name? Because I want to acknowledge her.
I can only tell you that we refer to her as Danielle. We don't discuss the last name.
Perfect. Yes, that's all we need. Yeah, there's a lot of us here that have someone in our life that is going through something. And because we feel like it's a burden or all those things, we're missing the point here is to help thy neighbor, right? Make sure that we are checking in on the strong, the weak, everything in between. Like every person needs to matter within your circle, within your family. And it's okay to have a grudge or love them from afar, but that communication is huge, to know that there is, something that they can attach to and really have hope, that life is worth living. And the fact that you took this tragedy and you started investigating, like, let's find the root of the cause, and then actually finding the answer, right? And then turning that into a movement, because that's what RadioBobUSA.com is, right? Let's start with that. Like when you decided to put it on a station, like what was that mindset there?
Before I go to the mindset, let's remind everybody. So we talk about, we're a 24-hour station. So every second that I'm talking to somebody, the sun's coming up and the sun's going down. Why do I bring that up? Well, because people are the same way. Their sun's going up or their sun's going down, right? And so we never know how we're going to engage people. And so the mindset that came in when we first started the idea of let's do music was we'd have to determine what kind of music we were going to do, how we were going to support it, how we were going to make it available to people, how we were going to put something together that people could go to and receive resources on, because like you said, we can reach and touch people with the music, but now we got to decide how we get to them. And we knew that one answer wouldn't make it. So, people living in the Ukraine right now don't have the same advantages as you and I do walking down the streets of Philadelphia, right? We don't have that same backing. It's different. And so their answer is going to be a little different, but it's going to start with that communication. So we looked at all that and we said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to start locally. We're going to think locally. And we developed this specific time zone genre. And then what we said was, we're going to beat people over the head until they answer us. And we're going to go and try and get material. And we're going to find out what the rules and laws are involved with that. And so one of the first things we found out was that most people play their own music or somebody's borrowed music, or they just repeat their podcasts on the radio station. And we said, why can't we play premium music? Why can't we do what everybody else is doing? What's wrong with that? So I learned how to do that. And then I learned how to program the radio station the hard way. I listened to videos for like week after week after week after week while I was at work, driving all my coworkers crazy until I learned how to program the song so it wouldn't replay the same song 41 times in a row. And then I said, okay, now I need promos. Now I need the website. How do I develop the website? And so I just kind of walked through it. And one of the things that I've learned over my life is never be afraid to reinvent yourself. I've known lots of people who have gone through tragedies. They've lost limbs, they can't see, they don't hear. They reinvent themselves and they say, I'm going to continue. We have an opportunity to be here. Just because I get fired being an engineer maybe means that I wasn't supposed to be an engineer. Maybe I'm supposed to be a sales guy. Maybe that's okay. Maybe I'm supposed to be a rock musician. Maybe I'm supposed to be Van Gogh. Don't be afraid to try something, right? And so we did this and we started getting people involved, and it's a domino effect. One begets another. One gift brings you a gift. So the first guy who came on board, Ken Laster, University of Hartford, you can have our jazz show. Just copy it off our website or I'll send it to you, kind of thing. Okay, cool. Called another guy and he's like, I don't know. And I go, well, I got this jazz show. And he goes, okay, you can have my show. So now I got a Grateful Dead show. Well, one domino begets another. Now we have 20 shows. One life coach, Spencer Jones, led to, I think we have 34 now that we talk to on a regular basis or get material from. They're all gifts. I cannot stress how much is donated to us. All of our content, a lot of our music comes from music submissions. And we get that donated as well. So we have Mascot Label Group and Jobu and the Dog and Voodoo Mirage and the Creepy Candies. They're all bands from all over the world. They send me their stuff. If it's good enough, we play it. If it isn't, we don't play it. It's pretty simple. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of gone to that routine. And then a year in, we realized that we weren't reaching anybody. We had 2 listeners, on average. And we're not reaching people. So we engaged the motorsport community because we knew people from auto racing and created what we call fuel injected Zen. And then we went out to the motorsport community and we said, everybody else is interested in what size motor you have in your car. We don't care. Why do you get in your car? What is it that brings you to the racetrack? What is it that keeps you up all night on Friday to tow that car in on the back of that old pickup truck on Saturday and compete against people that have a lot more money than you? And so we decided that we weren't going to let anybody off the hook. And we went and talked to a guy at a local race car track. A year and a half later, we were at the Week of Speed in Bonneville watching land speed racing, guests of a NASCAR race team. I tell people this all the time. Do not be afraid to reinvent yourself. So our 2 listeners in a week went to 75. 30 days ago, we had 5,000 in a month. We get about 10,000 social interactions a month, and our reach is 500,000 to 1 million people worldwide collectively with all of our friends. And so we've built this network, and now what we're doing is onboarding everyone that can help everybody else. So we do things like clean water initiatives. We work with community groups that help support other nonprofits, Pay It Forward, Z's Mastermind Group, Spencer Jones Energy Hub, the Music Factory. Anybody that will help anybody, we bring them in. And our rule is very simple. If you can help others, you donate some time or you figure out a way to help us out, we'll promote you. If you don't do that, we won't. And so now we're building a global network of communication of therapists, of life coaches. And we're putting them on the website. And our biggest thing, I need to get people to listen. Just listen. Just listen. You'll find everything else you need in life. Just listen.
I love that. I love that. Oh my God, what a huge initiative. And I love that you went. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a cough here, so I'm trying to go through it without coughing. But let's talk about the process, right?
Sure.
Everything is connected to data analytics, and the fact that you have a list of questions that you kind of stay with and say, hey, okay, what's the next move? What's the next move? Like, but very specifically, like I need listeners, I need people to engage, and that process for entrepreneurs or anyone, and Radio Bob USA is actually a nonprofit, correct?
Correct. Radio Bob Healing Media. Yeah, it's 7 digital websites.
Beautiful. So while people are building, whether it's a nonprofit or a profit, and they are sitting with themselves on just an idea and trying to get the results, I just kind of want your input on how important is that to get to the next step?
It's incredibly important. And the problem is that, and we've run into this with people that say, hey, I want to launch a podcast. And the first thing I tell them is, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to spend about 10 days watching other people's podcasts. And I don't mean Joe Rogan, because you're not going to get those numbers. You're new. I want you to find the smallest podcast you can and watch 4 or 5 of their episodes of the Medium podcast. Watch 4 or 5 of those episodes. And then understand that you're going to have to get hosts. So you got to call people up a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ahead of time. And just because you got 4 hosts for February doesn't mean you're done. You need to get your 4 hosts for March, right? And so people tend to jump into this and they went, whoa. And so we looked at 2 things. One is when you build a house, you can build a foundation, put the walls up, put the roofs in, move in, everything's great. Cool, that's great if you have the money. But what if you launched the moment you got to the property? So now you got to build a little piece of the foundation, a little piece of a wall, and a little piece of a roof, and kind of hide into there for a while till you get some more money, and then you can put in a window and a doorway and the rest of it. And so that's kind of what we had to do, because unlike a podcast, we don't turn off. Once we threw the switch on September 1st, 2002-3, we were live. And we've been live ever since. And I can't tell you how many people have listened. Maybe close to 50, 60,000 in 3 years so far. And I can't tell you how many visitors we had, but I can tell people that journey of knowledge, plus we do video. We do all of our own video editing. So when you go to our YouTube channel and you see these race cars going by me at 100 plus, 200 plus, 300 miles an hour, know that I'm 40 yards away, 50 yards away with a camera. So it's not just radio. We are absolutely in the face doing media. We go out, we do live broadcasting and live interviews, and people who want to be an influencer, or they want to do this, or they want to be an entrepreneur and they're looking at their business, have to understand that it's a commitment, and you pick that day. So we said 5 years. So we'll see what we're going to get in 5. If in 3 we feel good, we'll go for more money, and meaning more sponsorship to extend our reach and our visibility. And that's where we've been this year. So our second year of really getting involved allowed us to gain the sponsorship to develop the app that we just brought out on Android, which is a $5 donation. Even though our music's free, we ask you to donate by buying our app on Google Play, because it helps us pay the bills and it helps us support others, which we do. We frequently give out services. We send money to other support groups. Entrepreneurs always face 2 walls, and the surfers and the race car drivers will tell you there are no walls. We bounce off of those. The surfers use the energy of the wave and the walls to complete their mission. If you're an entrepreneur and you found a wall, your problem isn't the wall, it's that you saw a wall. You should have seen it as a wave, a way to ride that bad negative experience into a positive outcome. Find out why, right? And so we've really learned about that the hard way. Sometimes doing radio, we've had hosts on and they were horrible. And we couldn't train them, we couldn't help them. And we've had other people that have called us up on the phone. They're like, "You want a show?" "Yeah." "Well, I'm a professional DJ. I normally get 300, but don't worry about it." Okay. So you can make these things happen if you don't run into these walls and leave them that way. Use the energy, grab something from them. And that's what we do with other people, right? Every time we meet people, it's the same way. Let's grab some energy from them, give them some of our energy, and see what we can do together. Yeah. Love it.
That's amazing. I'm just continue to be inspired of your journey and just your thought process through this. So this has been established since 2022. We're on year 3, or about to, we're a little bit over 3 years. So we're entering into year 4. And you pinpointed something about this amazing app that you put together. Tell us what it does. And I know you said a little bit about it, but I really want you to go into detail. Like,
Sure.
What was the first thought process, and what is the mission?
So the one of the things that we encountered when we were out and about was 2 things. One, how to get people services and make them understand that they were there. And so on our website, we have a couple of resource pages, assistance pages, and a marketplace. And so the idea of the resource pages were for people to find links to help them with daily life activities, suicide prevention, things of that nature. The assistance pages offer life coaching classes and other avenues to help people improve their entrepreneurial life through other people than us. So we don't do that. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you're in the United States or if you're in Bangladesh, it doesn't matter. I've got people on 4 continents, so I'm pretty sure I can take care of you. They speak multiple languages. Guys in Spain, guys in India, a guy in New Zealand. They're all different because we're not all the same. It doesn't make sense to have this programmable formula. Well, I'll run you through course 337. You'll be fine. No, it's not going to work that way. So then as we were out and about, we were encountering people. We would hear this so often. Oh, give me your card. I'm going to listen all the time. Yeah, okay, maybe. You'll probably lose the card in the bottom of the bag. Never think about us again, but that's okay. Or we get people who come up and go, oh, what can I do to help you? How can I help you? Just email me and I'm in, and crickets, never hear from them again. And so we're going, this is really getting maddening because we're not getting any traction or support. And then people were coming up to us and they're going, well, where's your app? And I'm like, why do we need an app? We're on the web. We're free to listen to. You just push your browser open and listen. And this guy says to me, he goes, look, man, he says, people love apps. They just love them. They love putting stuff in their phone. It's a trophy, right? They won't care if they're paying $5 for your app. If they think they're helping you, they'll do it. They'll probably listen. What do you care? And I'm like, well, I care because apps are expensive, because the first app we looked at was going to be about 22 grand. We're a nonprofit. We don't have $22, let alone 22 grand, right? And so then I found a guy who says, look, man, I'll donate this. I'll make it happen for you. And so now ChatGPT and all these other AI programs are coming along, and that 22 grand's really running down to about $500. That's about what an app's worth for one page. And so we talked to this guy and we launched the app, and we launched it with the idea of they can still listen for free. You can still access every service we have for free. But if you're going to stand at my booth and you're going to say, how can I help you, man? I'm going to grab your phone and say, download the app, right? There's $5 towards me and you get the music. And now you can find me really easy. I'm on your home screen, man. Right. And away we go. And so we launched that app, and we have a promise of receiving one for Apple on the first of the year. So we're really hoping that turns out. And that's going to allow us to reach more people. And that's really the goal, is reaching more people. We actually have, the funny one is we have what we call pirate station. We actually have a guy in Germany right now who's stealing our feed, and he started his own radio station using our feed on TuneIn. And the mistake he made is the way he grabs our feed allows me to track who's listening to his station. And we talked about it because he showed up like within a few weeks, and we were laughing about this guy in Germany. And then I looked at my wife and I go, what do we care? I said, we'll just do more promos. We'll tell, right? He's playing our feed. We don't know where he's playing it, and I don't know if we care. We'll just use them for advertising, because why not? So we don't get mad if people take our feed or take our material or whatever. We tell the race car drivers, you want our video? Take it. Take it. It's all free. And it freaks people out when you tell them. You're like, what? You don't charge people for advertising? No, man. I have advertising. You sponsor us, we advertise you. You contribute, we advertise you. You want to help the planet? You're a nonprofit? We'll help you. You want to make money? We got to work something out.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So it's only right now on Android, but it's promising that it will get to Apple.
That's right.
And it's a one-time $5 fee. It's not reoccurring. And that goes to the support of keeping Radio Bob USA continuing. And then you get some great music, and you get of the information. So you're being fed at every angle for your life, right? I think that's a great mission, a great way to say, hey, you know what? We need to start talking more. We need to start communicating. Let's talk about that, the bigger mission, right? We've launched RadioBobUSA. We're launching the app. People are engaging. But how can we engage together? Like, what's that bigger mission for you?
Okay, so the biggest mission of all we have is we'd like to save the planet. But I don't know if our little radio station can do that. So backing up to the original mission to get people talking, right? Because none of the problems of the world get solved until we all start talking to each other. And we actually have to listen and hear each other, which is also very difficult. So let's take a really huge problem, which would be garbage. Garbage on the planet is a huge problem. I've been in industry dealing with waste remediation for almost 20 years now. So I think I've got a pretty good idea of what we're up against. And so when you hear people talk about let's get energy, they always say, oh, well, we can use solar, we can use wind. They're not reliable. They're problematic, maintenance intensive. I'm not really sure about the benefit, but mostly what they do is take up space. If we were to look at the greater mission, the thing to do would be less impact. So instead of taking up space, we should figure out ways to reduce the amount of space that we're using and achieve the same goal. That's the first rule of remediation, right? People do it the same way. So we take that garbage and instead of taking it to landfill, let's take it and use that for power. Okay, so now we've removed 75% of the garbage in the United States that we were taking to landfills and burying for the next 150 years. And we're going to take that down. We're going to put it in this little unit, zero emission, and create power with it. And now we're going to power all of our data centers on the inner cities on every block. You want to build one. Trucks come in, drop off the material, gets gasified. They take the reuse waste material out. So it's one truck for every 100 that showed up. The data centers get all their power. We create jobs, and we've eliminated a problem instead of creating a new problem by trying to transport more oil from the Middle East over to the United States. So if you're not thinking like that, you're way behind the curve. Well, our communication's the same way. It starts in the same thing. Why do we go to the hard part? Let's go to the easy part. You and I start talking and we start picking up garbage ourselves locally. Now we're hanging out. We may not agree, but we're both still picking up garbage, right? So at the end of the day, we can shake hands and go, okay, we didn't agree, but I get their position a little bit better now, and the garbage is picked up. So that's always been the bigger mission. Oddly enough, within our mission, we've engaged the surf community, which has been known to be one of the biggest environmental communities on the planet, but they're disorganized. There's a bunch of little people involved, but they all want to protect the ocean, right? Surfers are pretty open people, and they're pretty spiritual people. Oddly enough, race car drivers are the same way. They want to protect their race car tracks. They want to drive around in their machines and make lots of noise, but they want to protect the availability to do that. So they really pay attention to their environment, land speed racing on these dry lake beds, and even on the asphalt tracks and on the dirt tracks throughout all the local cities. It is a local event. It is a bunch of people watching out for each other. It's very family oriented. It's very wholesome. And yet these two communities have always seemed to be at odds with each other, and we've actually got them talking. We've actually getting them to talk. And once those two start talking, there's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Is the way we see it. And that's part of our bigger mission. That is our
amazing mission. It has been
absolutely
globally, yes, for sure. So tell us what, how can people get a hold of you? Now, I know we have your website on the screen scrolling down, but what are some other ways that our viewers can get connected with you? And go into a little bit of detail on what are those offers. I know you talked about donating information, sponsorship, promotion, and how that all looks. And there's also some other opportunities, very low investments, but it's still the same impact, still the same mission. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. So we offer, first of all, is our application. You download that once, you get $5 gets donated to us. We have a PayPal link on our website, on Yasmin's YouTube channel, that people can donate to. We have show sponsorship where people can invest on a monthly basis, a yearly basis as needed, where they promote a show and they can get audio promotion, visual promotion when we're out at our live events on our digital screens. So that's kind of nice. We have music promotion where they've just given us like $500 towards our music or $500 towards an event. They get their name up on the screen kind of thing. They get their name on the website. We have a show that we run currently from May to October every Saturday. Is designed to be safe for events. The reason why we do this is there's lots of car shows and fairs and things like that where they can't afford DJs, they can't afford bands. So somebody turns on their iPod and they play it and everybody gets upset at the music. So what we did was create a show that would be good enough for car shows, and it runs on Saturdays, and you can sponsor. It's called Route 66, and you sponsor for $66. And then you go up on our wall of honor and we talk about you all year long, but mostly you get 10 audio promotions during that event. So you could sponsor it and other people could be listening at their car show or whatever and hear about you. So we have that angle as well. We have our quote unquote sponsors that have been giving us money for the operation of the station, and they get up on our websites and they're mentioned at all of our events where we appear in public, which we do in front of at least 100,000 people in the Western United States at the moment. We run digital screens and video. We run these so that our sponsors can be seen, and so that our video gets seen, because we've learned that some people are visual in their world, and so they like visual. We've learned that some people like writing, so we have handouts in our booth with your names on them sometimes, depending on who you sponsored, what we're at, where we're at. And then we have, of course, our radio ads. So our sponsors are listed across our YouTube site, our worldwide broadcasting radio station, Yasmin's YouTube site, 2 Facebook pages, and our website. So it's 7 digital media websites that you're going on. It's not just one. When we do an event, for example, we're doing a July event for the National Hot Rod Association in Sonoma, California, which we're granted media access for. It's a donation from them to us. We will promote that event from now until then. So we don't wait for your nonprofit the week before like everybody else and tell them about your little show. We tell everybody about it. Then we go to that event and then we videotape it, and then we continue to tell everybody about it. So if you go to our YouTube channel and people are thinking, oh, great, man, it's going to be him sitting talking about music or something like that. Oh, no. Our YouTube channel covers everything from land speed racing to the hot rods to the sprint cars to the air shows, to the fire festivals with the girls spinning fire, and dancers and fairy festivals and everything else. And it's no holds barred. So we have it used to be a video channel only, and now it's RadioBobUSA on YouTube. And there's work that we can do there. For people that like to hide, we have a couple of AI creatures. One of them's a sport kind of guy, one of them's backpack kind of guy, and we have contributors that don't want their face to be seen. So we use our AI critters to cover up their faces so that we can do some video work, and we give them their audio work. It's the only place we use AI other than hopefully with grammar. Some of our promos, because it's pretty hard to afford somebody that's speaking Finnish. And since I have a lot of European customers, I've used a little bit of AI, but we do not play AI music. All of our music is original. You have to play an instrument to get it up on the radio. And we're grateful for our music contributors. So you can contribute music. You can contribute stories of adventure, stories of overcoming adversity. stories that make sense. We were in Matthew McConaughey, Kevin Costner, Anthony Hopkins, Richard Attenborough, Plato. If Keanu Reeves has something to say that I think can be a benefit to you, I'm going to play him. And we play him for educational purposes. So mixed within our music stream, and those sponsorships are about 140 hours of educational programming every month.
Beautiful, powerful. I'm actually getting chills because I'm actually learning more, even with the two conversations we have, on how much this station has to offer. So I will be all over your website. Definitely will get this out before 2025 closes, and you definitely want to connect with Bob, with Jasmine. They are phenomenal people that do phenomenal work. And there's another tragic moment that they had went to, and I don't know if you want to share the wildfires that were happening in your area, and the mission that you guys took there. And this is just where their hearts are, and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share that. So we were affected by the Paradise Fire. We had bought a rental. We bought a second property. We were very lucky to come into some money, and we were trying to figure out how to present an area for my mother-in-law to really survive it. She's kind of quirky, and we couldn't afford Sedona or Santa Cruz. So we found out that Paradise was kind of an enclave of quirky people, and she liked the Northern California redwoods and stuff like that. So we moved her up to the Paradise area, and the fires came and pretty much wiped out Paradise, killed 86 people. Identified anyway, and destroyed a community. The fire literally went right around her house on both sides. She was very lucky to get out. And when it was over, Yasmin took her energy and put it into the community. She did everything she could in her realm, in her world, and with her contacts to provide services to people. And we watched a lot of people suffer, and we've watched that community never come back. And some of the reasons why you could say it has to do with government, I work in government, they're definitely governmental reasons. But one of the biggest things that people don't understand, like with the wildfires recently in LA and other places, is that you can remove all the red tape you want and throw all the money at it you want, but there's only a certain amount of people that can swing a hammer every day. So things are never coming back fast. So they have to trickle back. And cities like that have, city staffs of maybe 1,800 people. But after a fire, there isn't enough people contributing to pay for those services and staff. And so we run into the shorts. And so that's where all of us come in, right? That's where people like Jeff Momora and Mark Miller and other people that we're working with have decided that we need to do things a little bit differently. And so we recently reached an agreement to provide potable water for every person on the planet that wants it through a nonprofit. And this is called safercleanerwater.com. And so when you go to our website and you buy this device for $168, which basically hooks up to a bucket, it allows anybody to pull reasonably clean water from various sources, run it through this thing, and have potable water. It can take care of 300 people a day. Why is this important? Because in the case of the Paradise Fire, the water services were out for 4.5 to 7 weeks, depending on where you lived in the town. You could have water, but you couldn't drink it. If you'd had one of these devices, you could have pulled the water out of the tap and you could have drank it. So we don't have to set up mini filtration plants and water trucks and all this other stuff for distribution sites. We can hand these out. We can survive doing this. So we have to think about this. And, we have to look at how we do our response and our management of these places. So one of the things that we learned with the Paradise Fire was it wasn't just about a lack of forestry protection around Paradise that caused a lot of the damage, because many homes survived inside of the city. But there were problems with code enforcement because people were afraid to talk to their neighbors about the abandoned cars on the properties and the propane tanks. And so those, in most normal fires and circumstances, probably wouldn't be a real problem. But when the winds are 80 miles an hour, a car blowing up turns into a blowtorch that covers half a block. So you got a really good chance of taking your neighbors out. So we also learned about what we call responsibility as a neighbor, how to help protect your neighbor, how to go across the street more often. And we noticed that with Paradise, and we started talking about that. And Yasmin got really involved with community meetings and getting people back talking. And it didn't help too much by having a pandemic within a year after that fire. But these people down in LA who have, you know, we always hear this, well, they haven't experienced wildfires like this. Yes, they have. Yeah, Malibu's been burning for years. Santa Ana winds, folks, you know, these kind of things. There's a reason why certain areas of the coastline are shaped, because the wind hits it all the time, right? So we kind of have to turn off our socialized visual brain and go back to basics and go back to nature. And that's what Yasmin wants to tackle more of. So she handles that kind of structured nature side, and I handle kind of the technical, keep the radio station and the cameras going side. But yeah, it's definitely something we want to do, and we want to be involved. But it was a major tragedy, and then we lost mom a few years after that. She didn't really recover. She lost all her friends. They all moved away. There was nowhere to live.
Wow.
That's what happens. It's the nature of things.
I love that you bring up the great point that, again, just going back to communication, that's where it all starts. Who has the authority, the power, the last say on some of these things? Like our processes in order, are, the response, process. What does that look like? What's the timeline? But it could just go back to, again, just as simple as just knowing your surroundings, where you're at, making sure you're checking up on each other. How can I serve? So I just love what both you and Yasmin are doing. So thank you so much. Thank you for bringing both of your stories onto the Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. More people, definitely go to RadioBobUSA.com. Check out what they have. How can you support? I think that what you guys offer is a win-win for entrepreneurs, for people that are also on the same mission of being that 1% of changing the world, right? And many 1% add up as well.
Yeah, we really appreciate you allowing us this opportunity to come on your program, Yasmin. Can't say enough. You can reach us at RadioBobUSA.com as our website. You can DM me on my Facebook. I pay attention to it. For those of you who are interested in sponsoring the station or seeing what we can do, my email is, I'm going to give it to you. It doesn't matter to me. Bob@RadioBobUSA.com. Send me your music. Email me. I would like to say something about music really quick if I can, in case you are all interested. I do not play hip hop or rap in most cases because I don't know where you've got your backing tracks. So original music is encouraged.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And music helps us, again, helps keep communities together for sure. Whether it's the lyrics, whether it's the beat, whether it's the message, just know that the bigger message behind it is that we're all working together for the same mission, and that is to be part of that change that the world needs today. So I appreciate you, Bob. Thank you so much for your time, for your story. And thanks again to the listeners listening and continuing. Did you want to say one more thing, Bob?
Just thank you, and please listen. And I know you can't listen 24 hours a day. I get that. But if you do like what you're listening to, tell your friends. I can't get the word out enough. I've got a big tent. Everybody's welcome.
Thank you so much. So thank you again for listening to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Nikki C. And as I always say, make it count. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.